The chair recognizes Ms. Johnson.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker and members. I proudly honor the life and service of Senator Carl Parker in House Resolution 633. And I'm also going to share with you House Resolution 632 for the passing of his wife, Beverly Parker. In the chamber this morning are their daughters, Valerie and Chris, and granddaughter, Emma. For those of you that will grab me in the hallway after I've had a chance to go to the mic and speak about how much I love this place, little do you know that you are grabbing on to my village. My dad, Jake Johnson, served in the House in the 60s, and his best friend was Carl Parker from Port Arthur. Our families traveled together, grew up together, and Valerie, Chris, and Alan are effectively my siblings. Senator Parker is the product of his father, Harvey, and mother, Juanita Parker. Staunchly supportive of Southeast Texas, public education, the rights of labor, and those that were most vulnerable. Beverly Parker, the daughter of Clifford and Liddell Stiegler from San Antonio area. They were a team, and serving for decades in the Texas House and the Texas Senate. Senator Parker advocated for things like seat belts. Completely controversial at the time. Completely an infringement on a parent's rights. And it was not until a constituent, a young mother, who had said there is no place more protective than the loving arms of their mama, that unfortunately was in a car accident, and despite all the love that she had for that child, not wearing a seatbelt, she was thrust into the dashboard and her child crushed and killed. He brought her here to the Capitol to tell that story. And because of it, he got past seat belts and child safety seats that today we all just take for granted when we put it on. He also made sure babies couldn't ride in the back of trucks. Another controversial thing. He got past lots of infrastructure in Port Arthur, including expanding the port. He understood big things, passing things for economic value for his constituents, but he also knew how to do the little things. The structure, when it was made, allowed for those in wheelchairs to be able to pull themselves up to the edge and fish on their own. Because he was a Southeast Texas sportsman. Hunting and fishing, and when we went to the Parker residence, oftentimes there would be Alan's jacket at the back door where he had ducks stuffed down in the pocket that Beverly Parker would then get ready and prepare this amazing meal. For years, I grew up where they would visit us in our home, and we would have all family around and have these wonderful parties and events, and for years we lived through every session as he would talk about the debates and the issues going on, like where we are today on tax. Eliminate property tax, go back to a sales tax. And I would hear him talk with some of my family and say, look, that original line of, I can explain it to you, but I can't make you understand it. If we all pay the same price for milk, it's the biggest regressive tax on your people. And for those that don't know that term either, Google it. Last session and special session, he was in the hospital, and I am so grateful that the Parker family would always invite us in. And in a true moment for them, when I got there, he was tired, he was not awake. Beverly Parker had come in from being at a meeting from the church as one of the deacons, and she walked in with this beautiful scarf, and she looked as elegant as she always did. And she said, "Annie, what's happening with vouchers?" And he popped up. "Annie, let me tell you what you do." He was a staunch defender of public education because, like my dad, and like most Americans, he was raised by strong mamas after the Depression. And he did pull his bootstraps up through public education. But he also recognized that society gave him, as a white man, boots. And when he got to a spot of power, he found it most important to pull seats with him at the table and fill it with people that didn't look like him. He died last March, and weeks later, Beverly followed him. We all joked that when he got to heaven, God said, "Boy, I can't handle this one," and insisted that she come along quickly. The family, too, gave us space with her in her last moments. And for those of you that knew her, knew she was pure grace at all times. And he married way out of his league. She also, at these last moments, was really funny. And when she would say something out of character or in color that I can't repeat, she pointed to herself and said, "Carl." She felt him with her. The last moment with her, and moments of pure honesty and reflection of knowing what was coming. She said, "At a time like this, you don't hold back. Don't think of yourself. Think of others. Be loving with all, with no judgment." Family, I know that it was an incredible sacrifice for y'all as kids to have your parents in this building. We are all eternally grateful for who they were in life and what their legacy will always be. I love y'all.
Ms. Thompson.
Members, in 1973, I was sworn in as a freshman in this body, and the first person I met was Carl Parker. He was a genius of a lawyer. He could tell jokes that would almost make your side burst open. He could bring moments of joy when there was so much tension on the floor. He had an opportunity to run for speaker because my first session, Price Daniel Jr. had promised that he would only be speaker for one term, and did that create chaos in this body? Everybody was running for speaker, and that's all we dealt with almost all the time during that session. But if you wanted to have a laugh, you go and see him. If you wanted some wisdom you talk to him, and if you wanted a good legal advice on a bill or something was for the body, he knew it. He was such a gentleman, such a friend, and he ran into some problems in his district. He had people that got angry with him and got him indicted a couple of times. But he showed that there was integrity in the grand jury system. He was able to achieve victory each time that he had to go before that grand jury. He later became a lobbyist. He lobbied many, many issues here. And maybe some of you in this chamber, he became your friend. But I just delighted. Whenever I wanted to talk and give jokes, I would call down and say, hey, I need to talk about so and so and so. Give me a few jokes, and he'll come up just instantly with 3 or 4 things that you could say to make people laugh. I enjoyed his friendship. I knew his wife well. I later learned of his family, and it was just a joy to serve with him. I regret that you did not have that experience, but I can tell you, had you had, you would have been saying the same thing I'm saying this morning.
Chair recognizes Mr. Raymond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I met Senator Parker many, many, many years ago, long before I was elected. He was a giant already, and he was someone from whom I learned a lot and had the privilege of becoming friends with him, really someone I looked up to. And many years later, when my brother here ran for office, I went and campaigned for him, which is probably why he won. And his grandma's backyard backs up to Senator Parker's backyard. So second time I went up there, Jackie, my dear friend Jackie Foy, we went over there and visited with the senator, had a good visit for a couple hours, and just thinking about and talking about days past. And I just wanted to mention that one of the things I'll never forget, I was very young. I was at a political event in Beaumont on Labor Day, and there must have been 1,000 people there. And I love music, I love singing, and however, I've never had the guts to stand up in front of a crowd, unless there were 90,000 other people there, and sing the national anthem. But Senator Parker stood up there. He's a state senator. I'm watching this guy stand up there in front of 1,000 people and sing the national anthem a cappella. I mean, with gusto, like he sounded good. And I looked at that, and I just thought, this guy loves this country so much, he's willing to put his political career at risk by standing up and singing the national anthem a cappella in front of 1,000 people. But that's how much he loved us. I say that because that never left me. I think of that every once in a while. I think of that when I hear someone else singing it. But that's how much it meant to him. And he sang it, and it was beautiful. And I'm glad, Ann, Representative, that you brought this today. And thank you for bringing the family as well.
Chair asks Mr. Manuel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I've known Senator Parker since I was born. The greatest thing about him was his wife. Beverly was the sweetest, kindest, most loving person. And after Senator Parker died, we had a good conversation, and to summarize it, I said, I never thought someone like me would be able to be in this seat, especially here. And she said, without a doubt, she said, what does that have anything to do with anything? She loved her city. She taught at our colleges. She loved people, and they never left Port Arthur. With all the success they had, they never left. Even as the community became less and less white, they stayed. They stayed in that house. Senator Parker and Beverly Parker, that was my political dynasty family. That was, for some people it was Reagan, and some people it was Clinton. That was mine. And I was 8 years old. I would leave elementary school because my aunt worked for him. And I would walk, and he would be telling jokes, and he would say, Parker. But when I would ask him a question, he would explain it to me in a way that an 8-year-old could understand. He took time for a child to let him know what was happening in a world that he was living in. We lost a giant, and we lost a greater giant, but we still have their love. And when I tell you all, I'm just a 1990s Democrat, that's because that's how I was raised by people like him. When you ask why I go back and forth across the aisle, that's because Parker taught me that. When I don't take things personal, Parker taught me that. Because he said, you always have a friend in another issue. He said, stand on your morals, stand on your values, and find someone who you can work with that has the same morals and values on whatever issue, because people deserve the best and not your pettiness. I will always be grateful to him for everything he taught me, for his beautiful, boasting, singing voice. And to the family, thank you for always being good to me and my family. And I will never forget the love and the grace that you all and your family and the Parkers have shown. And to his goddaughter, thank you for making a way for me too. And I love you all.
Chair recognizes Speaker Phelan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of you did not have the opportunity to meet Carl Parker. Many of you have never met a man like Carl Parker. A guy like that, first of all, there are many folks like that in Southeast Texas. Not all of them could get elected to office, and that's probably a good thing. Politicians like that don't exist. The days of social media, 24-hour news, the days of Carl Parker are probably long gone. But like Christian said, he was a dear friend, politics aside. His quotes are legendary. If you were at his funeral, some of the funniest stories I've ever heard were at his funeral this past year. One of my favorite quotes was, I ran into him at an event early in my tenure as a state rep, and I said, how's retirement? He said, Dave, it's fantastic. He said, I finally stopped getting invitations to events I never wanted to attend. For some reason, that has stuck with me. But my favorite Carl Parker quote, I might get in trouble for this, I do not care. He was accosted outside in the chamber one day by an upset voter. You're an idiot. That chamber's full of idiots. And he said, well, it is a representative republic. I don't think that person got the joke. But that was Carl Parker. He could give you a joke right in front of your face and you never knew it. I wish there were more Carl Parkers, more characters. It's what makes this body so great. So thank you for having this resolution. Appreciate you.
Chair recognizes Ms. Johnson.
I humbly move adoption.
Members, please rise and join us in observing a moment of silence. Thank you, members.